Okay, so it would appear that Mr. Rouse, Special Agent in Charge Rouse, has somehow gotten to Jesus Campos, the security guard, and the whole timeline, a week plus later, well, yesterday, so a week plus, just barely over a week, the whole timeline has changed based on the idea that the first responder, the very first responder, who we probably have the most information from regarding what was going on initially, the most credible first person on the scene, has changed. He says now, according to Sheriff Lombardo, that he never got up there, or that he got up there at 1 minute till 10. 1 minute till 10, 6 minutes before the shots fired. 6 minutes before the first shots were fired. Now, a week later, he's changing his story. So that's, that kind of changes the whole, it changes in part the theory that I had that the people that were up there with him, because I still believe there were multiple shooters. There's no evidence for that yet. They're still not going to tell us. I don't know if we'll ever know that. Or I still believe that there were multiple shooters, though. So it throws off my explanation with the new timeline. The original timeline was that he got off the elevator at 10:15 or 10. It was 10. Something like that. 10:15. Last shots fired were at 10:15. And that was consistent with Paddock having to fire down the hallway, to cover fire to allow his cohorts to leave, and then one stays behind, kills Paddock while the other ones supply the remainder of the cover fire, and then they get away down the stairwell. Apparently now they metal screwed the door shut, which, according to the 60 Minutes interview, was easy enough to pop open. There's other people out there saying the same thing that I'm saying about the timeline changing, because now he got there beforehand, which makes it more difficult for people to get away, or for at least the idea that Paddock didn't kill himself but was murdered. So the change in the timeline means that now Paddock had to kill himself. Plus, I still haven't seen the security guard interviewed by anybody. There's no video available from the very first responder. I haven't seen the mainstream media interview him. I haven't seen anybody in alternative media interview him. When you search interview with Jesus Campos, security guard in Las Vegas shooting, or anything like that, there's no video of this dude anywhere saying anything about when he got where and how he got there. So they've interviewed the officers that showed up, but not the security guard. And if somebody has interviewed the security guard, I'd love to see it. But now it has to be, based on the timeline change, that nobody stayed behind and that Paddock had to have killed himself. That's the only way that's the only change in the timeline. It still doesn't mean that there weren't multiple shooters, in my opinion. They still haven't proven to me that he was the only shooter, and based on all the audio, even with echoes, it clearly sounds like there's more than one shooter. And then that gives him, so let's say that Campos gets up there at 1 minute till 10. That means that in 6 minutes, unafraid, unworried, constantly monitoring the cameras, this sociopath, Paddock, has 6 minutes to break out both the windows, fire possibly from both positions. Maybe he said, well, this position wasn't good. This is a single shooter. Fires from that position, doesn't like that position, changes to the other position, realizes he has a better angle on the crowd from there, and shoots from the other position. But yet there are no shells recovered, and none on the video that I've seen of the other room, not the living room or the bedroom, but the room, which was the second door breached. There's no evidence from that room anywhere. And I am really worried that we're never going to get the real story. So this has got Lee Harvey Oswald written all over it. They Oswalded this guy, either I mean, I guess he could have killed himself, but well, that's what it looks like now. It looks like that he had to have killed himself. But they're making this guy the main single shooter, just like they did with Lee Harvey Oswald, even though clearly, I don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald did Kennedy by himself. Most people don't believe that. I think that this is going to be, I don't know that we'll ever get the truth now. They're changing the timeline. They're saying one thing, and then later on they're saying something else based on the first responder. If it was like other people or people who showed up late, or I haven't seen anybody that was on the same floor interviewed yet saying when the fire started, when the shooting started. All I've seen is the police officers, and they were like super dramatic about how many guns were on the scene. Which, I don't know, maybe 60 minutes altered that interview, which is probably what happened. I wouldn't put it past 60 minutes. They are, CBS, a mainstream media company, and nobody believes them. And if you do, then you're too distracted or you're not paying attention. That's my opinion. Even though they'll tell you how credible they are. Oh, we're so credible. They're about as credible as the FBI. And some people will tell you that they are the CIA. The media is the CIA. So, and I would tend to favor that too, which is why alternative media is so popular. But then there's other people talking about how he bought up all these things and he was going to shoot up these other places, at these other music festivals and stuff. And if you're a good sociopath, right, and you're really trying to cover yourself, you're going to buy those other venues, especially if you have the money. If you have the funds available, those are distractors. Those are like, oh, look, he could have shot up this place just as easy. Or he was planning on shooting up that place. Or he's planning on shooting up this place. But he ended up shooting up this place where all the country music fans were. That's what he ended up shooting up. So if you're like Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, then, the motive is the objective. So, and that's what I think too. I think in this case, I think that this is still possible. This guy's ISIL, and he never really planned on getting out of there. There may have been other people involved, which is why the car is left in the parking deck with all the tannerite in it. And what's he going to do with all the tannerite? Why did he bring it? And, if the hotel security had bomb sniffing dogs, they'd be able to sniff out the tannerite. You're just going to leave it in the car? Come on, man. I think he had other plans for the tannerite. Maybe from other people. Maybe he knew he wasn't going to leave that suite, but maybe the people that were there were going to. And they were just like, abort. We need to get back to our room so they can evacuate us. Or we just need to walk out of here the same way we walked in and brought all these guns up here. So I think the multiple shooter theory still exists, but the idea that somebody else killed Paddock other than Paddock, I think, is starting to wane. Unless they killed him right away, that would mean that even before the shooting started, nobody else got off a shot other than Paddock. So that's why the change in their timeline is so convenient. Right? The original timeline, which came out, 3.5 days after the shooting occurred, showed you that yes, this is feasible, that somebody else killed this guy. Now, with the current timeline, regardless of what the FBI hostage rescue team has to say about it, with the current timeline, it's pretty solid that this guy killed himself. With the new timeline, a week later, 4 days after the original timeline comes out. So there's all kinds of possibilities there. It's easy enough for the FBI to threaten somebody like they did to the Jewett guy at the bombing at the Olympics, where they wrecked his life saying he did it because he wouldn't agree with their story, which is probably the same thing they did with this Campos guy. They're probably like, hey, listen, we can make you complicit in this unless you tell everybody what exactly we want you to tell them. Sign this right here. So, I wouldn't put it above our FBI, particularly the deep staters. in the FBI and the CIA and all the other alphabet soup bullshit agencies that we pay for. That's right, Mr. Roush, or whatever your name is, Rouse. That's our information. That's the American people's information that you're hiding from us. You're hiding it from us. And we can't defend ourselves properly because you're not letting us. Anyway, hopefully the truth will come out. We'll see. We'll see if Trump has any control over the government. Anyway, God bless you, my fellow Americans, and good luck.